Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that talks about what it takes to be healthy and stay healthy in today's modern fast-paced world. I'm Tiffany Simms, your host, and today I am here with Valerie Hawkins, and we are going to have such a wonderful, peaceful, exploratory conversation around pain, power, and your own personal agency. And so I'm really excited to go here with her. And before we jump in, Valerie, will you share with our listeners who you are, what makes you you, like how are you sparkling out in this world right now?
Okay, well, thank you, Tiffany, first of all. And so I am a nutritionist. So, and like not always been a nutritionist, but I'm a nutritionist now. And I just like sparkle by like seeing the power in nutrition combined with like mental health and nervous system dysregulation. I kind of combine those two. But like that is like almost like a superpower, right? To help people, like you mentioned it, like be in their strength and their power and be able to tackle anything. So that's kind of where I start.
How'd you get into nutrition?
Oh, because mine was terrible. No, my health was terrible. So I started, so like it took me forever to figure it out. It's kind of like like the door was knocking that you have a problem with like something going on, and I just wouldn't listen. So I had migraines starting at 14, like terrible, debilitating migraines, cluster headaches, horrible. Doctor said, take this medication, try this medication, try that medication. Never asked me like what I was eating, how stressed I was, like which is typical, I think, for most people probably listening. But like that's where it started. Like I just but my diet was looking back was like terrible. It was like additives, high sugar, high in like all of the processed foods. It was like the opposite of what I would tell clients to do right now. But like I thought like it's sold in the stores. Like it can't be bad for you. Like I actually thought that because I didn't know. I was 14. And clearly,
Me too.
yeah. Yeah.
Me too. I used to like, I don't know about you, but for me, like when the hippy dippies would be crunchy and like,
Oh,
oh, that's bad for you. And this is, I truly would, I used to say things like, it can't be bad for me. It wouldn't be on the shelf. It can't be killing me if it, like, if it isn't real food, why would they be selling it at the grocery store? I
yes.
truly believed that
Yes.
it was okay. And now, and I'm sure there was a time where the food on the shelves in the middle of the store were not as processed as they are now. I think that that has come about like as we are trying to be more efficient financially in product like production and finding different ways to do the same thing and extend shelf life and things of that nature. And so I'm sure there was a time where goldfish were truly just like a flour cracker snack. like, but it's
Yeah.
not now.
I'm much older, and I don't think it was like that when I was growing up. I mean, TV dinners, that's probably going to date how old I am, like were a thing, right? And that's
Woman, I'm
wild.
40. How old do you think? How old are you?
Oh, 55.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yes. I think 40 is so freaking cool. Like I just turned 40 in August and it is like the coolest thing ever.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah. Like, and that's the era where I like figured out stuff. It took me that long. Like that long. It took me forever to figure out like, hey, none of this other stuff is working. None of it. The doctors give me this terrible medication that doesn't help. I'm terrible and I'm getting sicker and sicker and sicker with like, okay, now I have fibromyalgia. Now I have really bad IBS. Like I had like couldn't even function like well. Like I pushed through. I don't know if most people knew that I wasn't functioning because I was just pushing, pushing, pushing.
But you didn't, but did you know that you weren't functional? Like, I don't know about for you, but for me, when I
Mm,
look back, I'm like, how did I do that? It's like I didn't know any different. I didn't know how to
Not in the
feel.
moment. Right.
So
Not
it
in the
was
moment.
just my normal.
Exactly. It's your normal. And it's not until like you do something different and it changes, you're like, wow, that was crazy. Right. But in the moment, you're thinking like, I just got, this is life. I just have to push through. I'll just keep on driving and pushing through. And like these migraines, well, like it's almost like a disability. You figure out how to maneuver, push through, do all these things while dealing with the guilt of not being able to like do everything you want. Because I do think the migraines, that level of pain that I was going through is really limiting, like terribly limiting. And as far as like what you can do, like I had a fear of going to sleep because a lot of my migraines would start in the middle of the night. I would wake up with them. So like a fear of going to sleep, a fear of laying down, a fear of exercise. Because if when I exercised, I got terrible migraines, especially if I did in the morning. So all these little things would happen. I in hindsight, I can put the pieces together why. Like, oh, that's why in the morning this was happening. That's why like why it was happening at different times. But like in that moment, like so then all of these fears, and then you start doing these adaptations to like to continue to push through, which makes life even harder. So like and then everything just started compounding like more and more and more.
So deeply. I feel there's a few things in that like my soul was like remembering feelings.
Mhm.
It was like that feeling of like I didn't know how crappy I felt until I felt better. And that me and the me and the thumbs on Zoom today have been
Right.
like crazy. They've been popping up left and right. Um, but it's like I didn't know how bad I felt until I felt better. And I didn't even know I felt better until I had gone back to old habits for a minute in comfort. And then all of a sudden it's like I'm miserable. Like, holy crap, I didn't realize the difference. Like I didn't even recognize I was feeling better. Like I felt better, but I didn't really know what that looked like until I had the comparison on the other end. Cause it's like, oh, Doritos aren't that bad for you. And then I would like eat them. And all of a sudden my like joints would ache and I was having trouble getting up the stairs. And it feels so silly and dramatic saying that out loud now because it's like they're just some Doritos. And at the same time, like our body knows.
It
And
knows. Yeah, it knows.
and the moment I learned to start listening to what my body was saying worked for us and didn't, like everything changed. And then I got really, really mad at all of the doctors who had put me on IBS medicines and had done the colonoscopies when I was 18 and had handed me like 12,000 calorie meal plans and just said, if you like want a different life, you'll figure it out. And here's some medication that'll help you lose weight, but didn't. And like it all coming back to like it being my fault that my body was doing what it was doing because I didn't want it bad enough. And then you learn. So like you went down that path of like, well, if no one can help me, I'm gonna have to help myself. So I guess I better go learn it for myself to figure out how to help.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said like your body knows. And I think your body
Body
knows. And then
knows.
when you don't listen, because there was all these other symptoms coming up before that. Then you don't listen, then it's like, okay, like there's a threshold of like bad stuff happening in your body, like biochemically, nervous system regulation. Okay, now you have migraines, right? So now like that's where it's coming out for me in migraines. It might come up out for someone else as something else. Like it
For
might
me, it's
be asthma. It might be like something else that's coming out. For me, it was migraines. So like that's like interesting. So it was like if I was giving my body like what it needed, it was saying I need something more. Like I need more of this and less of this, right? And you're not doing that, right? So then here you go, right? And then it was like so then inadvertently I think I'm not going to say doctors are bad, but like then they give you medications that actually made those things worse, right? They might say take some ibuprofen or Advil or Tylenol. Like that actually made my gut health worse, which increased my inflammation worse, made my inflammation more. So like like things that were like might help in the short term for like an acute pain doesn't help chronic pain. It actually could make it a lot worse. So, I was doing things and getting advice that wasn't good for my body.
So, for you, from your perspective now, having gone through the training, being a nutritionist, helping patients and clients, and being a part of the solution for people when they're struggling, from your perspective, why do you think that we don't focus on nutrition as like the starting block when someone comes in with symptoms that
Yeah,
are
it's crazy
unpleasant?
because yeah, that's one thing I got mad at. Doctors never asked what I was eating. Are you kidding me? They never
Like,
asked what I
why?
was eating. They didn't look at my nutrient status. Yeah, they checked my iron. They did check my vitamin D maybe once, but they don't really check like your nutrient status and like all of the like nutrients needed to make your body go really well. Like, like all of the essential nutrients, micronutrients are essential for a reason. Like your body needs them, right? Let's make sure you're getting them in your diet properly. Like so, like that's a thing, right? So like I don't know why like doctors didn't start with nutrition. I think it's the way they're trained, right? That's not part of their model that they can work with, right? They like to do a full lifestyle intake for like a nutrition, like a functional nutritionist will take an hour at least, right? Versus like 10, 15 minutes with a doctor. They just can't look at your what the food you're eating, but they can more quickly assess the problem and say, here's a procedure, here's a
Which
pharmaceutical.
symptoms instead of like, let's get
Yeah,
into the root cause of
right.
what's going on. You know,
And and people will say like if that would have helped, my doctor would have told me. I've had that many times. Many times clients have said like, my well, if that would have helped, that's so easy. My doctor would have told me. Or like that's way better than all the side effects from this. My doctor, I said, I don't think, I just don't think they're aware sometimes.
I think that's it. I just think, like you said, it's not in the SOP, right?
Exactly.
Like we weren't that you weren't trained that way in medical school. We were trained to like get a patient in, make the symptoms that they came in with lessen, and send them on their way. And it's really interesting to me. And I've been out of, I personally haven't needed to go to like a medical doctor for a really long time. Thank goodness that I've been healthy. And so maybe things have changed since the last time I needed help. Um, are nutritionists a part of standard care now? Like if I were to go to my like internal medicine primary care doctor, would there be a nutritionist on their team now as like just part of standard care or not yet?
Um, you might find some, like some do, a- and it will more likely be like a dietitian, a registered dietitian, versus nutrition. And there might like versus a functional nutritionist that's really going to look at like the root cause approaches to like
Yeah.
health, right? And how that's impacting like disease states. Nutritionists can practice medical nutrition therapy. So, that's, very targeted nutrition, supplements, herbs to really impact like root causes of disease states as well. But, I don't see it often in a practice. They might refer out to a dietitian for a very specific thing, like diabetes, right? Someone has a gut issue like IBD, Crohn's, celiac, diverticulitis, like known that like okay, they know that like okay, they're going to have to change their diet. They may have to eliminate a lot of things from their diet. So go to a nutrition to help figure that out for you. Um, but beyond that, like I don't see a lot. Now, a functional medicine doc might have more nutritionists on staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a on my vision board for a really long time was that like I had this vision and I didn't know if it was something I'd be able to accomplish in my lifetime or not, but I had this vision that I would help merge Eastern and Western medicine into one where we actually treated patients like whole people and we leaned into the science and the medicine advancements when we needed to, but we started at the beginning to
Mm,
really help people
yes.
be themselves, you know what I mean? And stop this like Eastern medicine's voodoo and bad. And actually, like, vegetables are great for you. Herbs are wonderful for you.
Yeah.
Like, so
And when
many
did
of our modern medicines are based off of the components of these things found in nature. Like, that's how we ended up with aspirin. Like,
yeah, like, and when did food become alternative medicine? I don't like
but
it's
we
interesting.
laugh,
Yeah.
but it's true. And since then, my ship has sailed a slightly different direction here of late. And so I was just really, really curious. And when I go back to thinking about what you had said of like when you were 14 and having these really bad migraines, and that like when you look back, that was like the starting of you learning like nutrition and how important it was. What kind of things, as some if someone is listening right now who is suffering with severe migraines, they're doing all the things, they're losing so much time being nauseous and spending time in the dark, what types of things work well for you that you noticed in like learning how to get ahead of it?
Okay. So like I didn't know for like a long, long time that it was even a thing. I watched a documentary and it talked about food helping all these things, and I was like, huh, food, could it help these things? And at that moment, I actually decided to eliminate added sugar.
Mm,
So, and it's so inflammatory. It does so many things. So, like one of the first things I tell people to look at reducing inflammation and stress, not just emotional stress, just like all stressors in your body, help reduce inflammation. So, like do whatever you can to eliminate like stressors, including emotional stress and inflammation on your body. Sugar. blood sugar dysregulation is like a big one for a lot of people. So like, and that's the one that I started with. So like that's the first. And then I started to look at all the things, right? Went got my master's in nutrition and decided to look at all the things that impact it. But like that's the first one. And when I eliminated added sugar, that's all I did. And I was like, well, how much added sugar should I keep? 20 grams. Now I was drinking like multiple sodas a day, coffee, sweet tea, like on top of all the other stuff. So it was like a lot of sugar. So like I think I went down to 20 grams and I was like, okay, a teaspoon of sugar has like 4 to 5. Bread has
Withdrawals are
four.
no joke.
What?
I
I'm
said the
sorry.
sugar withdrawals are no joke.
Yes. But I was committed. So like I went to it and I said, okay, well, if a piece of bread has 5 grams and I have to have my coffee and I need at least 1 teaspoon of sugar in it. So I kind of like managed my day and then nothing else after that. So like, what am I gonna eat? So like you naturally end up putting more vegetables, more proteins and stuff like that. So by just eliminating the sugar, it like forced me to put other healthier stuff in my diet. But like that alone, like my headaches went away, like for the most part at that point, like the significant reduction in headaches. And I was like, this is crazy. Like all I did was eliminate added sugar and like this, like the intensity, the severity went down. And like, and then I did other things after that. Like, and like I haven't had a headache in like forever. But yeah, I was just like, this is insane. Like that much sugar, right? So when I eliminated those things, it also eliminated things that had like additives, preservatives, dyes. Like when I look at it, it's like, okay, so I eliminated sugar, but it also kind of like naturally eliminated a bunch of other things as well. But like I would say like blood sugar regulation, which you have to like get in a better balance there, like would be like the first thing, depending on your diet to work on. If you've tried all the things and your diet's perfect, that may not be your first step, but I think for many people, like that's a really good first step. Get your blood sugar regulation under control.
Right? How much sugar was in spaghetti sauce until like
There's so much sugar. Ketchup,
it's like
spaghetti sauce.
24 grams per serving.
It's
Could
crazy.
you
It's
imagine just shoveling a spoonful of sugar in your mouth with every bite? Like, and I remember being really, really like taken aback and like, are you kidding me? Because it's like tomatoes, most every recipe. Now that I realize I can't eat tomatoes, my body doesn't agree with them.
yeah.
But I used to eat a lot of spaghetti back in the day. No wonder I was inflamed. But every recipe that you go to Google has tomatoes or tomato sauce as the base to bring it all together. And back then, when I was looking at this stuff and learning more about sugars and all the hidden things that were in the foods that I was eating regularly, I was like, I couldn't believe it because it was just like, here I thought I was choosing spaghetti sauce over like an Alfredo or over nachos or something like that. And I just consumed like a year's worth of sugar in one sitting.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
we're
Like,
giving this, and I don't have kids, but it's like, and we're feeding this to children like nonstop. No wonder they can't sit still.
yeah, and the sauces and things they'll give promote for children are way higher in sugar. Like they're
Yeah.
the worst. Like when I saw five, like it was usually it's 4 grams of sugar in like a slice of bread. I was really mad. Like why are we putting sugar in bread? I don't understand. Like it was
We have
so
to
much.
sweeten it to make it addictive so that we continue coming back for
Oh,
more.
absolutely. But I was just mad about it. But
But the
like barbecue
statistic,
sauce, all of the stuff. It's just
oh
like
my God, barbecue
ketchup,
sauce is
ketchup. Oh
just
my gosh. It's
and and I got like, I don't know about you, but like the mad was really this. So this was about 10 years ago for me. And like I would just be mad every single day because I felt like I couldn't eat anything if I wanted to take
Mm,
care of myself.
yeah.
And the pendulum does swing. If you're listening and you're feeling that right now, you're like, everything I eat regularly is bad for me. Then what am I supposed to eat? Like the pendulum does swing, and you find like the produce and meat section of the store, and you forget that the middle part of the grocery store exists for the most part. Like
Yeah.
it does happen. But I heard a statistic once that just blew my mind that the average American child eats a 52-gallon trash can worth of sugar from hidden sugars in the foods that their parents are feeding them that they thought were healthy for them, whether it's like fruit snacks or pouches or just
Yeah. It's
spaghetti
like
and
that's
bread.
supposed to be healthy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. The amount of
Yeah.
sugar is
Could you
insane.
imagine just shoveling a trash can? Like, here you go.
It would be healthier if you actually just put a bowl of the sugar in front of your child and said, like, eat that, they're not going to eat it. They're not going to.
And just start lapping it up.
Like, but they're not going to eat it all. But like when you mix it, right, with all these other things, then they can get all that sugar in. It's
Yeah. And
crazy.
I feel like because of this conversation that we're having right now, of all of these hidden sugars and added sugars, that sugar's got a bad rap. And so then people went on to like this anti-fruit kick of like, can't have sugar, fruit is bad. And so like, I know where I stand on that part of the conversation, but I'm curious, where do you stand and like how do you articulate your feelings on that conversation?
Well, for me, it's about blood sugar regulation, right? Balance, right? You want your body, like we started with, like to be able to be strong and powerful and resilient, right? And be able to handle like a little bit too much sugar, a little bit too much of this, be able to detoxify. Like you want to be able to have your body in a strong state so it can have the flexibility to handle what's coming at it. So, not to be purist about like no sugar at all. No, your body should be able to handle a level of sugar, whether it's like more fructose in fruit or glucose or a combination. Your body can handle it at a certain level, right? It just can't handle like this massive amounts of sugar. So to say like no sugar, it's crazy because that's one of the main fuels for your body. So it's crazy to think that like, okay, no sugars whatsoever. But then you need to know like what's working for your body like right now, right? A lot of people will use those CGMs, those continuous glucose monitors, and just see. And those are fascinating, especially for clients, to put a CGM on and just see how you react to different foods at this time, and then do things to get your body more resilient so you can like handle those foods a little bit better. Right. So it's kind of like, so like everyone says, oh, this is high glycemic, the breads are going to spike your sugar. It might, but I've seen someone where a protein spike their sugar, or different things like surprisingly would spike their sugar that isn't typical because like all of these other things listed are like the average of people, right? So that may not be you, right? So
It's not the spike, it's how your body burns it. Like, is it a slow burn where you have like sustainable energy source afterwards?
Mhm.
Or is it that spike in that like hard crash? Like that
Right. And
crash is what we really want
right.
to
So you
avoid.
want to like, that's what I'm talking about. Your body having that flexibility to be able to handle it. So maybe right now, okay, it's not handling things well. But then at some point, by giving yourself the right nutrients to be able to like convert that sugar properly, get it into the cells, to be able to use it properly, being able to use alternate sources, like you can use fat or you can use glucose, right? Be able to like give your body the nutrients to be able to be flexible that way. Then like you might spike and then it just like comes down or just won't spike as high, right? Just because your body's just not reacting like hyper vigilantly, right? So then if it doesn't spike super high, you don't have that insulin spike, right? So, and actually insulin is a better marker than high glucose because like you want to know like if when you have a ton of insulin, is it pushing it into your cells? Or are you pushing a lot of insulin, like nothing's happening and you just got this buildup? But like, yeah, so like what can you do to like reduce that insulin, that spike and that like significant drop, right? So, like little things like walking after a meal, right? Just like little things to like, okay, I ate something that's not great for
Yes.
me. Let me just move so I can get the sugar out of my blood and into my cells, right? It's like just doing like basic things. But like, but missing like key nutrients in your body that convert your glucose, your fuels, your glucose and fat into like energy, like you're gonna have problems, right? With blood sugar regulation, right? Like B vitamins are like massive, like B vitamins, magnesium, like L-carnitine is a supplement that people could take if they're having difficulty getting like fat, using fat as a fuel, like and like they might be tired a lot. So like, just making sure you're getting all of the essential stuff in, then your body can like use the stuff versus, you know, like saying, oh my gosh, I need more and more and more and more and more sugar to function. It's like, well, if your body was functioning more optimally, you may not need that much sugar. And
Yeah.
as a side note, when you eliminate the sugar, like for me, the everything tasted better.
And another thing for me that was really helpful was like when I was having those strong cravings, pausing and recognizing that wasn't that I was bad and broken for having cravings. that for me, part of that sugar craving, especially around 3 o'clock, was just my body telling me that it was low on energy and needed something to help keep going. And so, like, knowing that like fiber filled carbs were a really good source, having a really good protein packed snack with like a fruit or something to help give my body the building blocks that it needed and the put the gas in the tank was like such one. It was like really, really just like allowed me to let go of the guilt and shame for having cravings. And two, it just gave me an ability to breathe and be like, oh, okay, body, it's not that you are trying to sabotage me. You're trying to tell me you need something. How do I help you?
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Like
Because
that's just a
it does need
signal.
sugar. We need energy. Like the body needs a lot of things for it to do all the things we do. It does without us telling it to do it.
Yeah, because in that moment,
So
like
good.
you probably actually needed something. You
Yeah.
actually did. It wasn't like,
The
oh, I'm
body,
bad
go
for
back to
eating it.
Bio
Like you
101.
actually really needed it. So it's the same thing for anything. It's like they're all, I want to say there's no bad, like pain is not a bad thing, right? Everyone says like pain is
An
terrible.
important
Like
marker.
yeah, like without pain, like you it'd be a problem. Like fear is not inherently bad. It's safety, right? Pain is the same thing. It's safety. It's telling you, hey, there's something wrong here, right? Like it's an alert, right? Sometimes this that alert just stays on for constantly for chronic, and like there's things you need to do to like be like, okay, like now things aren't as bad as we're thinking. Like, what do we do to reduce that stress, to reduce that inflammation so your body can get to a better place of like calm and safety? And once it does that, like your actual biochemical processes will work differently to support health, right? You actually detoxify
Magical.
properly, right? So it's kind of like, but you have to feed it the nutrients needs to like make things go properly. And you also have to get it to a state, like a calmer state, so it can actually do the natural healings and functions of your body that don't happen when you're in like a really, really stressed state.
Yeah. Like your body has to trust you
Absolutely.
to take care of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Especially after years of fight or flight and stress and just being chronic cortisol zone of like the fight or flight mode. Like for a second, like it does take a minute and you got to be gracious with yourself, knowing where you're going, not gracious like I'm gonna throw up my hands and no food is bad or anything like that, but giving yourself grace to find your new normal because you've got to regulate your nervous system and then you got to reset the autopilot so that like the habits that you develop when life's lifing are that match the person that you want to be, not the coping mechanisms that you had. And like as you navigate that, your body is like, okay, like we're on the same team again, let's figure out how to work this together rather than it being this like constant like grinding fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like that analogy of the team, the grinding fight is like perfect because
And that
like
takes
I
time.
think that like when you're in that, like you're thinking all of these things are bad, you're fighting against yourself. And I think this is what I work with clients on. Like when you get to a point where it's like, no, it's your body is not fighting against you. It's doing something the best way it knows how to like help you in this moment. And I think when you lean into like, okay, this pain is telling me something. This anxiety, this fear, whatever it is information that it's trying to give you that like something's not going right. And it's trying to be helpful, right? The way your body works, like in a fight or fight fear state, is to help you. It's not to hurt you. Now we're in that state too long, so once you then say, "Oh, thank you for being able to help me," like you kind of get into like an appreciation that your body can do those things and stop fighting it and work with it. That's when all of a sudden you like actually things just start to relax and calm down
Yes.
because you're no longer like fighting against it.
Yes. And it becomes magical. And
Absolutely,
it
yeah,
takes
magical.
time. It's just like if you're at work and you have a boss who's like really, really resistant and you're butting heads all the time, and you get a new boss, and even though they might be magical and wonderful, you're a little skeptical and you're a little hurt and you got some war wounds, right? Where you're trying to protect yourself. It's the same thing with your body. Like you guys are going to learn how to be one again when you've been two different things for a really long time. And so like give yourself that like space to practice. That's what I used to tell my clients all the time was like, we don't need to be mad at ourselves for the choices we've made or the decisions or the coping mechanisms that we developed. Like, be so grateful that version of you survive the hardest years of your life to bring you to this moment. And it's okay to put the backpack down for the next person to pick it up because someone else is in survival mode. But someone else has left their backpack that they no longer need with the tools and resources that you need to get through this next chapter. And so, like, for me, letting go of the guilt and the shame and the hatred of myself for who I was and what I had been doing to my body was a complete game changer in us becoming one again. Because it was like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have to be mad at her. She was doing the best she could. And now I've learned new things and I get to try differently.
Yeah. And that survival mode, like I've had clients say that, like, oh, I'm in survival mode. And I'm like, and that's a bad thing? Like, so like they're like, yeah, I'm in survival mode all the time. I'm like, well, actually, like thank your body because being in survival mode is like so protective. Like it's trying to protect you in the way it knows how right now. And just like be thankful for it and just know that okay, now that no
Yeah.
longer serves. Like how can I like it like let's get
That
find a better
empowerment
way.
piece.
Right? Exactly. No longer serves. How can I move past this, thank it, and then move past it, and then find something, someone that can help you like stay in your power and like push through that. But like being in survival mode is not a bad thing. Like stress is not bad. Like as people talk about cortisol being bad, like if you didn't have cortisol, you wouldn't be alive. So like it's too much, but at the same time, like I feel like people need to lean into what they're fighting
Yeah.
sometimes.
And just in that realization of like, okay, these things are happening. I am in survival mode. What actually, if I paused and created space between me and everything that's happening, what things should I stop doing that aren't serving me right now, that aren't helping this get better? And what things can I like add in its place that were actually helpful to me? Because so many times, at least I know in my own experience, like that survival mode, sometimes I've hung on to it for dear life, like it was a badge of honor and it
Mm,
like validated my existence. When if I had just paused to take an assessment, I could have like changed just a few things in that moment to lessen the load for me to then be able to like thrive and see things differently. And so for me, every time when I feel that stress and that anxiety and that resistance, I have learned to go, okay, body, I hear you. And I pause and make an observation to decide, like, all right, what needs to change? What's in my control? What do I have control over that I can change? And like, where are we going to go from here now that we paused? And it has been so helpful.
yeah, pause is a huge thing because like without the pause, you're not aware. You're just reacting, right? So you need that
Yes.
pause to like be aware, and then you need to be like to create that awareness, like, oh, what's going on? Like, why am I feeling this way? Like, am I really hungry or is it something else? Like, am I really afraid of this?
Am I avoiding a conversation? Am I hungry or am I avoiding a hard
Right,
conversation?
or just like, is this really fear? Like, or like, am I really not in safety right now? Like, like so many times, like, oh, like we're in this anxiety, fearful mode. It's like, okay, are you really in jeopardy? Is like, what's like that is like old messaging. Like, someone like
Mm,
people talk about like talking public speaking or talking on a podcast. It's like, okay, who's in danger? Talking to someone on
right?
a podcast, right? There's no danger
Yes.
there, right? So, but like,
So, so good.
but there might be this huge fear for it, but like just that pause to like hold on a minute. This is a reaction. Is what I'm reacting to like actually happening? What's going on? And that pause is beautiful, like for so
Ah,
many
it's so
people.
good. That is so, so good. Valerie, as we're wrapping up this episode, is there anything that was left on your heart that you wanted to share or any final words that you want to leave with our listeners today?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing was like I think we started with like calm that stress and inflammation with sugar. But like I think that everyone should know like there is a way that they can have less pain or greater health in their life, right? Whatever they're dealing with, whether emotionally or physically, there's something out there that can help them. Don't just accept and basically kind of like give your power away to maybe a physician or someone else saying like whatever you're dealing with is not real, but you can move forward. And just like I feel like people need to like stay in their power and know that there's something, have hope. Use curiosity as like a tool to be like, oh, I wonder if something else might help. I wonder if this is the best thing, right? And by doing that, I think people can like take back their power versus giving it away to someone else to tell them what to do, what to eat, that type of thing.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. How do people connect with you outside of the show?
So my website is hawkinshealthandwellness.com. And I think that's the best place. You can book a
Cool.
free call. Like, so I do like a 20-minute session just to kind of see like where you're at, where do you want to be, where do you want to go, and if I'm the person that can help them. And if I'm not the right person, like, I can give recommendations for like who else. But I think someone specifically dealing with pain, whether it's migraine pain or other pain in their body, that's something that I work on with most of my clients. So like if that's you, I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Wonderful. If that is you, if you've been struggling with pain and things that Valerie and I talked about today resonate with you, go be a human and connect with another human and go set up that consultation call because you're worth feeling better in your own body. And if someone like Valerie can help you, you owe it to yourself to go explore that. And so, with that, Valerie, thank you so much for being here. That's Two Humans Talking. I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and actionable as I did. If you're ready to stop just surviving and start living a life where your health, your relationships, and your career work together without the burnout, then it's time that you join the Modern Women's Society. Inside, I'll walk you through my life GPS system, a proven blueprint to help you have it all while thriving. You'll gain tools, coaching, and the kind of clarity that brings big dreams to life without the stress, overwhelm, guilt, and shame that the modern woman is used to. We're going to create a life where you feel energized and excited to wake up every day and fulfilled when you put your head on the pillow. Click the link below to learn more and join countless other women who are redefining success on their terms. Because the life you've dreamed about is closer than you think. I'll see you on the inside.